Welcome back to the Posscast.
Oh, it's us. We're here to read you the Reddit stories that we've sifted out from the sewer waters.
Yes, it is solid gold in here, like someone who has traveled across the country to California for the gold
wait.
rush. What?
Hold on.
What?
I think that's corn.
Oh, gross. Anywho, it's
Poop
pretty
joke.
cringe. Yay, poop
Yeah.
joke. All right,
All
so
right. Who wants to start? Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'll start. So last week
All right.
last week one of the stories you read mentioned one called Upto's Raid, or Upto's Punishment. And so I pulled up that story. Player rage quits over Upto's punishment.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a fairly short one,
Who's
so
up,
it's
though?
gonna be honest, I don't know. This thing is kind of a mess, but I promised I'd read it. It's short, so it's a nice appetizer. You know,
All right.
it's what you eat before you eat to make yourself hungry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. It was posted 22 days ago by Filthy Hobo Man, and it has 651 upvotes and 69 comments. Nice.
Nice.
A while back, I was.
Synchronicity.
Huh?
Synchronicity.
Nice. So a while back, I was running Tomb of Annihilation. I had a problem player we'll call Mei. It's a meme, but there's an emphasis on, yeah. That we'll call Mei in the group. A lot of problems with him, but essentially he had main character syndrome. His character needed to be the most powerful and most beautiful and most classy. It's hard to stay classy when you're doing a hex crawl through the jungles of Cholt. This group had a lot of good inter-party banter, and would have a lot of fun poking at each other and making jokes when they set up camp and whatnot. It was great until they took the piss out of Mei. There was a lot of material to work with, since Mei is a high-class elf who spent the entire journey scoffing and taking down the party. How did Mei respond? Well, he refused to pack up camp and sat there in the middle of the jungle. When one of the players asked if he wanted to continue, he decided to cast firebolts repeatedly in an attempt to burn the jungle down. We live in a tropical area, and this led to the funniest argument between two players on the feasibility of setting fire to a jungle. Have you ever tried to light a banana leaf? It's impossible, dude. Mei.
Wait, hold on.
What?
I think I might know what Updo's revenge is.
We'll
Or Updo's punishment.
Well, they're about
We'll
to find
see.
out. Yeah, we've got Mei eventually decides to continue. He tries to lone wolf it, and I tell him he either continues with the party or he's out. And he's done this shit before, and it just causes trouble. Good on you, DM.
Nice.
I was using a third-party add-on from PowerScore that helps plan travel days in the jungle. The next encounter was a sentient bush that was created by Updow. It gives out berries that grant you temp HP if you're nice, or poisons if you're disrespected the land and dinosaurs. Most of the party interacted and ate some of the berries and got temp HP. Well, if you try to burn down the jungle, you get the poison condition and the runs. To the party's rancorous laughter, Mei stomped out of the session right quick. He never did get to show him. I never did get to show him the passage from the book, and that I wasn't picking on him. I guess I don't really care either. We finished the campaign without him, and it was great. So yeah, I'm guessing it's like Montezuma's Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The runs.
Yeah. So, don't.
Moral of the story: you can't burn down a rainforest.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
Yeah, you need like a drought. In order
Yeah,
to...
and even you need for it to be dry enough. This ain't no fucking woods.
Yeah, you need it to be dry, and you need to host a gender reveal party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What you need is 80 to 800 pounds of tannerite.
Yeah. What you need is a wizard to cast fireball, but they need to be an evocation wizard. That way they can change the color. You know, blue to boy and pink to girl. Just sets orphanage on fire. It's a girl.
Yeah, they think they've pointed it up in the air at the right spot, but they were just like 10 feet off, so they've managed to just remove.
They thought it was
like a chunk of a building.
They thought it was a dome instead of a ball.
Yeah, they thought it was a dome,
Yeah.
so they let it directly engulfing half of the roof.
Yeah, technically an evocation wizard would be able to prevent that from happening, but also that seems like
Funny.
Yeah. Anywho, there's not much to say. If you're willing to dish
don't
it,
disrespect nature.
Yeah, don't dish it if you can't take it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, you got a story?
Yes, I have posted 8 days ago by user Green Adder with 28 upvotes.
Ooh.
90s Shadowrun Theater presents Vindicated. The mangled metahuman made mincemeat by his minigun.
I love alliteration.
Yes. When you're first starting out playing RPGs or game mastering, you can make quite a few mistakes. If you decide your first system as a GM is something extra crunchy, like Shadowrun, you're in for some bad times.
Oh no, that was the very first thing they've ever run?
Yep.
Oh no! Even experienced GMs have difficulty with that.
Yeah, and this is old Shadowrun.
Oh no, this is not going to end well.
My teenage self had a lot of blunder years moments, but I also seem to attract some frightening players. So as any good horror host, let me make a few puns about boars and ghouls, and welcome you to my first tale of Shadowrun woe.
Love how Shakespearean this is.
The Vindicator minigun is an item from the Shadowrun 2nd edition Street Samurai catalog. It's an electronically powered machine gun with 6 barrels. It takes a whole turn to spin up, and after that, it pretty much turns the scenery into confetti, and metahumans into salsa. And naturally, the guy playing the troll Street Samurai really wanted one during character creation.
Oh god.
My friends, I have to admit I was a bit of a Monty Hall game master at the time. So Vindicator's what he got, and a belt full of high explosive ammo.
Oh no.
Again, I was young and naive. If I give players the good stuff, they'll be happy, right?
Oh no.
I was already thinking about moments that Troll Street Sam would be able to use that weapon. Maybe a massive ghoul swarm, an armored personnel carrier, a whole lot of corpse sec grunts.
I do want to say one thing on the topic of the belt of explosives. One of my favorite combinations is high explosives and gross incompetence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Continue.
The problem is that he didn't want to use it eventually. It was his new hammer, and every problem was going to look like a nail.
Oh, I love this.
So here's the situation. The party has to sneak into a corporate office, grab a prototype gizmo, and get the frag out of there. It's your simple smash and grab job. Read Cyberpunk Dungeon Crawl. And one of the players pulled strings with one of his contacts, so maybe the back door might be unguarded for just a bit. Easy job, right? No, says Troll Street Sam guy. I want to go through the front door.
Well, it's not the fucking Matrix.
With my Vindicator.
He's just gonna put on leather trench coat and stroll in, walk through the goddamn metal detector. Guards gonna be like, oh my god.
I know, right?
Fucking love the
Corporate
Matrix.
security in Shadowrun is nothing to sneeze at. It's not just hapless goons. If they're guarding something important, it can mean paramilitary hardware, drones, magic users, sometimes even astral beings. Also, the guards don't have to physically hit a panic button. That's implanted. They can just think bad stuff as a free action and the alarms sound.
You got that neural
Also,
link.
I think I'm echoing a little bit in your mic.
I don't hear it. It's not picking up on OBS.
Okay. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, the other players are begging him not to do this. He's gonna get fragged. The whole team's gonna get fragged. There won't be enough left of them to bury. Let's just go in the back door, just follow the plan. It's had no effect on him. No, he says, pretending to hold aloft his giant firearm. They'll get out of my way when they see this.
What are the
So,
odds that
there his
they
character
have
goes.
one?
There his character goes, stomping his way into the corporate HQ, walking right up to the gate. Let me in! And wouldn't you know, the panic button goes off. And out come the guards, the APCs, the rocket launchers, and the mages. Ever hear the expression, geek the mage first? Well, here's an example of why that is. In the midst of the ensuing, very one-sided battle, one of the mages flings a fireball in Troll Street Sam's direction. He has enhanced reflexes, or was it boost reflexes? I forget. So he's actually able to react. I turn around so it hits my back, he tells me. At this point, the player's very agitated about the combat, because he's taking a lot of hits.
Wait,
it's like Tony Montana at the end of Scarface, except he's not at the top of the stairwell.
Isn't he wearing a backpack full of explosives?
Yeah, that comes up right here. I pause. You do realize you're wearing a belt full of high explode. I said let it hit my back. The backpack is metal. It'll be fine. It was not fine. When rolling for damage, it was anything but fine. And his ammunition immediately began to explode while he was still wearing it. And it kept exploding. And all we could do is roll for damage, watching his character sheet slowly fill up with X's. Light wound, moderate wound, serious wound, deadly wound, and beyond. A look came over the player's face that I can only describe as nerd rage. The other players, clearly oblivious to the smoldering hatred inside of this young man, all began heckling him. The hives might hate to say I told you so, but these guys certainly didn't hate it at all. With a reddened face, he picked up his SR2 book and flung it across the gaming room floor. He stomped a foot and pointed directly at me, screaming obscenities. If you were a real GM, you would have let me do things my way. Instead, you had to pull this, continued expletives. He then stormed off. I later found out he had formerly played D&D with a GM who was an even bigger Monty Holler, and I was in one of those, and I was in those days, than I was in those days. I was told that GM, had he been in charge of the game, would have portrayed the security guard as a coward, concerned only with self-preservation. Oh, please, Mr. Troll Street Sam, don't hurt me with that big gun. I'll let you right inside. Apparently this GM would let him bluster his way through dungeons, sans combat, and with 0 rolls to intimidate. He'd simply say, I show the skeleton my big sword, and that's all he needed to do.
Why would a skeleton be afraid of anything that's not a cleric that just casts Turn Undead?
Exactly. Like they said, even bigger Monty Holler. Give them what they want.
I'm a little bit of a Monty Holler, but but not that big.
you usually balance it out by by us being stupid.
Well, I usually balance it out by having there be consequences should you fail.
Exactly. This player helped me become a better GM in a lot of ways, even though he sat at my table for only a few hours. He really helped me curtail some of my bad habits but strangely, he also helped me stop being such a railroad GM. The minute he said he was going to trudge up to that guard booth, this part of me said, just let him, see what happens. It was like a switch going off. I became much more of a freewheeling GM in almost an instant. It was my first real GM horror story, and it sticks with me to this day. But it wouldn't be the only tale of Shadowrun woe I'd face.
It's a very valuable lesson.
Maybe sometime soon I'll tell you about Count Session Zero, the not vampire, and a few other problem players. As for the Shadowrun book he threw, it lived in the back room of the gaming store for a couple weeks until he sheepishly came to pick it back up. He was convinced he'd gotten himself banned for throwing it.
he wasn't even banned. Oh my god, this guy is like main character syndrome in real life.
I can't wait for more of this user's horror stories.
Oh man. Yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. What was their name again?
Green Adder.
Oh, I love that. I should watch Blackadder again. It's been a long time.
I'll check back in like a month, see if it's been uploaded.
Yeah. Lessons to learn here. When a DM is like, "Are you sure?" Take a moment to think about what it is you are trying to do.
Okay, this can be applied to more than just in your game. If someone, either above or below you in rank, says, "Are you sure?" Maybe give it another thought.
If anyone in general is like, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
Like, you sure it's a good idea?
Yeah.
Hey, bud. Maybe don't?
Yeah. If anyone's ever like, "Can I get that in writing?" You should also be like, you should also take a step back and think about what it is that you were trying to do.
Oh.
That's just general life tip. Also, general life tip: if your boss is or coworker or anyone is trying to get you to do something you don't think is a good idea, ask them to email it to you. Like, email you exactly what you want or what they want you to do. Because always get everything in writing. But yeah, it is kudos to the DM for being able to freewheel it and learning how to improvise, and also not being a pushover.
Yeah,
that's also another thing. Don't bully your DM into letting you just do things. If you succeed every single time, then there's no like stakes. Like, we've gone over the Superman problem before. Anything else to add?
Maybe bully your DM just a little bit, but not in like that way. Like in the friend way.
Yeah, rib your DM.
Yeah, rib your DM. Ask them, "Hey, what's this character's name?"
Yeah, always ask them the character's name. Every time.
Ask for their name. Ask if they have any family in the nearby region, and also maybe ask what they what did they major in college.
Yeah. Because if you do that, then they'll make the character like, "Oh, it's a bard, College of Swords," all along. Actually, I think College of Swords is that bard or is that
like,
wizard?
"Yes, hello, my name's Johnson Jacobson. I have 37 sisters and brothers living in the near 20 miles."
Oh, nice to meet you. What's each and every one of their names?
All of the boys are named Jacobson, and all of the girls are named Jominson.
Yeah.
The way we tell them apart is that each one has a slightly different shade of brown hair.
So yeah.
Also, I'm a level 20 rogue. I'm an assassin. Don't tell anybody.
I secretly am wearing some boots that make me walk through walls, and I can't get hit, so you better not try to rob me. Oh. Alright, so, next story?
Yeah.
Alright, party attacks a fellow player because her pink tiefling doesn't act like a girl. This was posted 16 days ago by Snork22. It's got 1,187 upvotes. So, first things first. Whilst this is my first post, I've been looking on this part of Reddit for a while, and as well as have watched a ton of videos of people doing readings of RPG horror stories from here, or talk about their own experience. Also, this story is technically not my horror story, but I was present at the time, and it was the reason why I left and had what had been my tabletop RPG group for the past 6 years. I did ask permission from the person whose story this is, and she even gave me an update, which I will put at the end.
Ooh.
Edit. I want to add some content warnings for real quick for sexism against a girl player in an all-male group, since I feel that may be triggering to some people. But nobody ever got handsy or physically violent. Anywho, so basically at the time, we were a table of 5 people, our DM included. We've been playing together for a bunch of years, like I said, when one of the other players introduced a new person. I'll call her Rose for the purpose of this post. Thank you for having a normal goddamn name. None of this letter bullshit. This is a good post. We had just finished our previous campaign, which had been vampire themed, and we were looking for a more classic high fantasy D&D adventure, which was why the other player, I'll call him Rogue since that was his class for said new game, decided it was a good idea for him to bring Rose, whom he'd known for a while then. Apart from Rose, Rogue, and me, I played fighter because I like being the tank in game. There was our DM and 2 more guys who played Bard and Warlock respectively. This feels like a good moment to mention. All of us at the table were guys, and Rose was the only girl. This will be important, trust me. So, we made our characters and we got to know each other a bit, and then started playing. Rose's character was a pink tiefling druid. I forget the character's name. She was essentially built up on the premise of looks like a cinnamon roll but could kill you. I love that trope.
Nice.
I thought it was a fun concept, especially because her character was an interesting contrast to our more dirty, gruff, and typical high fantasy male characters. Her RP was also great. She'd play the tiefling as a super cute and sweet, only for her to become vicious in fights. I thought it was amazing, but as I came to learn, the others did not agree. I think that we had been playing for maybe half a year pretty regularly, and I was under the impression that we were all on the same opinion when it came to Rose, that she was nice, fun, and played a cool character. But then the big thing happened, which taught me better. About a month before the big thing, I noticed that especially Rogue and Warlock started acting sort of ruder towards Rose than I previously noticed. But since they had both started university, I figured it was just stress. Feel free to call me an oblivious oaf down below, cause God, I was oblivious. And I didn't say anything. Rose, for what it's worth, didn't seem too bothered by it either. But then over that month, everything became more and more tense, and I noticed that our DM seemed to deal her character more damage. But I thought it had to do with something from her character's backstory that would be revealed later or something. Since she never brought it up herself. Then, finally, the big thing. A fight against a goon that I think was supposed to be our BBEG's like primary minion or something. The DM was definitely dealing Rose more damage than usual, and then suddenly declared that the goon mind-controlled the Rogue and Warlock. I expected them to protest, but they got really into it, and the DM had them attack Rose's character. They seemed more energetic than all that session. Bard and my character resisted the charm of the goon, but when I went to step in and defend Rose's character, the DM said I was too far away. Bard did not step in, claiming his character was too shocked. Warlock and Rogue, under DM's lead, punched Rose's character to death's brink, and then the mind control of the goon finally let up. But instead of helping Rose's character, everyone just started attacking the goon. I tried to have my character stop the bleeding and keep Rose's character alive until the bard could heal her, but the DM said I was quote-unquote too shocked to do anything useful. Now I got mad at him, and he just sort of cut me off and turned back to the fight. The party did defeat the goon, and I started calling the bard to heal Rose, but he just said no. Warlock and Rogue didn't say anything when both Rose and I started to argue now. Some context, Rose got really into angsty RP, and I think up to that point, she at least was in it for that. But when she realized the party had turned against her, she got rightfully mad. Now, I don't remember exactly how the session ended, but basically the other players let Rose's character die, and the DM did not let me fight them on that, nor let me attempt to help, since I was a knight and I can't heal and I must focus on the mission. Even though my character's personality was very cliche, a shining knight gentleman-like. Rose did not return to our table with a new character the next session, and when I showed up to our meeting, the other guys were laughing and mocking her, and talking about how they were glad she was gone. I got mad and demanded their explanation on what the hell that was. No idea why I didn't ask them the previous session. I generally don't remember. And they told me they'd been planning to essentially bully Rose out of the game for a while, and they apparently did not like that she played a pink character in a flower crown that did not act cute or quote-unquote like a girl. Yeah, I don't know, but I told them that they were dicks and I left the group there and then. Good on you, OP.
Yeah.
I am embarrassed that I never noticed how awful these guys were before, and honestly it was probably because before Rose there hadn't been any other girls in our tiny social circle, and since we didn't hang out outside of our sessions, I didn't see them act sexist, though I'm sure that all the signs were there and I was just blind to them. Now, I did text Rogue a few days later and asked him why he had brought Rose to our group if he hated her so, and he flat out admitted that he'd hoped she played a character so he could seduce her in-game. Apparently, she had mentioned wanting to try D&D, and he had seen a chance or whatever. So yeah, a pretty awful group, and I'm glad I left. This was like 4 or 5 years ago now, by the way. I recently got back in contact with Rose, and she happened to be in the same seminar as me in university. And we had a good talk about everything. That's when I asked her if I could post this horror story, and she not only said yes, but also told me of what became of her after. She participated in some online character swap. If you had a D&D character or an OC to retire, you could swap it out for another person's retired character. Sort of like D&D adoption. Her character was
neat.
Yeah. Her character was adopted by someone who used the party collectively killed the druid as a tragic backstory, resurrecting the character as a druid in the Death Domain Warlock multiclass. Fuck yeah, that's awesome. If I remember correctly. It sounds cool, and Rose said that the other player had a lot of fun with the pink tiefling. Rose herself turned to local LARPs after that, but that isn't my scene, so I haven't played with her since. I feel like I contributed to the bad situation for Rose, even though she told me that out of all the guys, I was at least not a jackass. But if anything, this experience opened my eyes to how sexist many tabletop RPGs and nerd spaces are towards women. Definitely changed how I interact in fandom spaces now. So, what do we think? Does this count as a horror story? I'm gonna say it does.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
This woman got brought in purely so that the rogue could get lucky.
Yeah, that is a goddamn.
And when that didn't work out, they fucking bullied her out in the penultimate episode.
Gross. Yeah, they're dicks, they're creeps, and good on you for ditching them. So the lesson here is, first of all, like, try to keep a close eye on people who just seem a little too mean, quote unquote, in character, you know? And
Yeah,
also, don't be afraid to leave. Like, if you're not vibing with the group, just
absolutely.
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, apparently, LARPs are pretty fucking cool. And
I would
also,
love to. I would love to LARP, but I don't think there's any near me, and also I don't have a car, and I can't leave the house for more than 2 hours at a time. So it'll have to be after I.
I would love to LARP, but that probably requires, like, a lot of, like, extraneous movement and shit, and,
Oh yeah, it's a lot of physical activity. You have to walk and stuff.
yeah. And I got cringe lungs. My lungs are fucked up and evil.
As do I. Well, my bronchioles are fucking terrible.
Alright. So, you got a story?
I do indeed, yes, have a story.
Hell yeah.
This was posted 8 days ago, by user SushiCat323,
I
107
love that
upvotes.
name.
That's cat with a K, by the way.
I figured.
Alright, it is called D&D 3.5 player rage quits because that's not what my character would do after making all her own decisions.
Oh boy.
Alright, so I've been a DM for a long time, and this player's rage quit still gets me today. I was DMing a 3.5 homebrew game. I'd worked for months, including several locations, new gods, and some new and altered races, as well as main and side quest trigger locations. Some minor timed quests, i.e. if you don't find the trigger solution, it's possible the quest could have a failed state.
Hell yeah.
I've done this in several games, and these timed quests usually had better rewards. We've got our cast. Me, the DM. Best friend, BF. Playing a goblin sorcerer. The rage quit player, RQ. Changeling rogue, of course. Human fighter and half elf ranger. Human fighter HF, half elf ranger HR.
Just give them names.
Oh well.
Just
at
name them
least-
after colors.
Yeah. So, only one of my players in this group was a new player to our group. This was RQ. This was Changeling Rogue. We start, as most games do, with a session 0, and this was my first red flag for how demanding Changeling Rogue was going to be. She'd only played 2 games of D&D before my game, and she said that she greatly enjoyed the power plays, and boasted during session 0 about how she could get her previous male DM to do whatever she wanted. On that note, only she and I were women in this group. BF and I have been my best friend and I have been friends for well over a decade. And I'd been friends with the rest of the group for a minimum of 4 years, and they have all described me as strict but fair DM. I don't know how true that is, but I've always tried to work with my players to give them what they want, without detracting or negatively impacting the rest of my party.
Oh yeah. That's
Changeling Rogue started session 0 with, I want to play a changeling. Okay, sure, awesome. She then adds, my changeling is going to be trans. I just look at her for a second before asking if she'd read my race sheets, because one of the things I had stated in the race sheets was that changelings were genderless.
Well, I mean, if they're on that topic, if a changeling could, like, they could be sexless and, like, come to identifying as
not sexless, genderless. They're all non-binary.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I've got non-binary.
Well, not
changelings.
non-binary, not less non-binary. They are agender. They are agender.
Okay. Yeah, I have non-binary changelings in my campaign.
Mm.
Good luck figuring out who they are, though.
Probably Mal. She pushes for a solid few minutes before we work out a compromise. The form her changeling defaults to was a trans woman. I could tell she wasn't really happy with that, but it was the only way I could work out that a genderless being could be transgender. This pushiness was red flag number 2. Everyone else finishes their characters, and we get into session 1. The not yet formed party is stopped by the guards at the gate and pushed to one side. Changeling Rogue and and half-elf ranger grumble and moan at the guards, but they're not budging. Then, best friend, half-elf ranger, and human fighter all start talking with each other, trying to work out what's going on and why they were pushed aside. Each member of the party tried to draw Changeling Rogue into the conversation, but she acts haughty and tells each of them to leave her alone, to which they shrug and go on with their own RPing.
She doing the whole edgy rogue brooding in the corner.
Of course they're doing the... and there's no corner to brood in, so they're just standing there.
They're just brooding in the open?
Yeah. Of course they are. Did you think they would do anything else?
I like to be an optimist.
I like to be a realist.
I think the opposite of realism is idealism.
That is true.
Yeah, because you can be an optimistic realist.
Yeah, I tend to think things would usually go the best way, but this almost never does.
No, it doesn't.
When was the last time you saw a dark, brooding rogue standing in a corner not be a problem player?
There was one story, like a few years back, that I loved, where the DM told the players to make the edgiest characters they could, and they all went... It was like 6 players all playing rogues, and the DM straight up had to say, there are no more empty corners for you to brood in.
Alright. Changeling Rogue acts all haughty and tells them all to leave her alone, to which they shrug and go on with their own RPing. After a couple minutes, a guard tells them they're free to pass through the gates and suggests a nearby tavern for them to get food and drink and maybe a bed at. The 3 agree and head that way. Changeling Rogue immediately asks me for the location of the seediest, dodgy, and most violent tavern in the city, to which I respond, "Are you sure?" Because as I said above, I had trigger locations for main and side quests. This was a trigger location for the main quest, a slaving ring that had been targeting strangers to the city and shipping them out to the nearby mining complex.
Ooh.
She assured me that she assured me that's what she wanted, so I gave her the location through a nearby street rat. She goes there, and lo and behold, they're having a promotion. Free food and beer to anyone that enters today. The whole day. No questions asked.
Oh, that's suspicious.
She's like, I've scored. I don't have to pay for food and drink. Maybe I can get bored too. She fell for what I thought looked like an obvious trap.
Yeah.
But no. She ate and drank for several hours. She ate and drank enough that when she started to feel sick, failed fort save, she just thought she'd eaten too much. She hired a room for the night, to which the bartender responded, "It's yours for the night, no charge." And then she went to bed.
I mean, that's
Meanwhile,
one way to introduce the main plot. Is it?
Yep.
That's one of those. That's like the laser situation, you know.
Yeah.
What was the other obvious trap one that we read?
I don't know if we read it, but it's something I've seen in the past. A sparkling dome around a location in which everything inside was dead.
Oh,
plant,
I
animal.
love that one.
They watched a squirrel run in and immediately die.
Yeah, and then they walked in.
And then they walked in.
I don't think the OP specified that they walked in. Just ended with, guess what they do next.
Exactly.
All
right.
I think
Meanwhile,
I think my devious. Sorry, I think my devious trap is still the best trap ever.
It was great. I loved it. It was a trap with a different trap inside of it.
The first trap was bait.
It was a layered trap.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty clever.
Yeah.
Alright. Meanwhile, the rest of the group is finding some supplies and working on finding a couple side quests in the city to settle into the setting and into the group dynamic. Because the Changeling Rogue had blown them all off earlier, none of them really thought about her in the few hours she'd been carousing in the scum den of the poorest quarter. In fact, none of my other players knew where she was. I make a passive perception check for Changeling Rogue to wake up with modifiers because she was drugged, and she failed it. And so, morning rolls around, and she finds herself in the slaver's caravan. Her gear visible, but located in the caravan behind the one she was in, and she was a good 2.5 hours out of town.
Oh boy.
My intention was for the rest of the party to hear that another shady caravan left the night before with what looked like incapacitated people loaded into it, so she could try to save herself. If she spent 10 seconds looking around, she would have been given several potential methods to get out and get her gear. Then the rest of the party could also try to mount a rescue so everyone could all meet up and start the main quest. A little earlier than I planned, but nothing I couldn't handle. But no. Changeling Rogue didn't take 10 seconds to look around. She just starts shouting at me that she would have known that people were coming into her room.
Now she was drugged.
Did you set any early warning system? Any traps? Anything at all before you went to bed? Because I don't recall you telling me you had. No, but I have good perception. I would have heard them. You realize that you were heavily drugged, right? I mean, if I really wanted to be mean, the amount that you ate and drank would have had... the amount that you ate and drank would have had you imbibe enough sedative to kill an elephant. No, because my character wouldn't have eaten or drank anything. She only eats or drinks things she prepared herself.
But
That's news to me. How many rations do you have? None. So you ate and drank all night with no rations? Changeling Rogue, you ate and drank at the pub. You had their food and drink. You failed your fort save and your perception due to being drugged. You're in the caravan. This is what's happened. I quit. You're a fucking shit DM. You should have known you'd have a problem with... I should have known you'd have a problem with me. Fuck knows what she was talking about there. I can only think this is because she, 1, wasn't able to get her own way like she could with the previous TM, 2, was frustrated that she put herself in that position, and 3, the problem with me leads me to think that she thinks I might have some kind of problem with trans people because she's a trans woman. The group consisted of 2 straight guys, a bi guy, a bi woman, and her. No, not exactly the most discriminatory group.
That is also similar themes to my next story.
Fun. Needless to say, she left the group and the rest of us continued on with the rest of the game for a good 6 months. You know, before life got in the way of the gaming. Edit. Just for a little clarification. Things like splitting the party was raised in Session 0. I also stated that, while I will never actively try to kill your character, I do not protect you from player stupidity. With the clarification that means if you do something that could have negative effects, be aware that something could happen.
Yes!
It doesn't always, but there's a high chance.
I love this DM. I'm very much the same way.
These are my usual disclaimers to the point that it's a running joke in my group, and I say it every time. I did also give the player other checks while she was in the tavern, though I do concede I should have given more sense motive checks. Not that I believe she would have paid them any mind.
Yeah, no, that was an obvious trap. Like, if you're in... I'm sure, like, the slaver plot probably would have come up in Session 0 since that is a fairly heavy topic. And if you're in a campaign where you know that there's going to be slavers, and you see that there's, you know, a place to sleep that is very suspiciously welcoming. I mean, yeah. She
Yeah.
just sounds like super insufferable.
Yeah, no, if I had a player like that in my group, I would just be like, go to the DM, like, hey, I don't like this person.
Yeah. All right. So let's assume that that person is also the same person from my next story. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of similar themes in my story.
Oh boy.
Mine is called Christianity Causes Player to Quit Campaign. It was posted a month ago by KnownWeek6645, and it has 1,305 upvotes. Hello, I am back with a new story that happened not long ago. For context, yes. I recently started going back to D&D this year after taking an extended break. Fair warning, this is a rant as well. Over the summer, I had a former classmate of mine reach out to me saying that she was going to DM a D&D campaign and wondered if I wanted to join. I said, yeah! And so I get invited to a Discord server with 4 other people, including DM. 5 minutes later, I get personally messaged by one of the other members of the server. This is my first encounter with the problem player. We'll call her Lucy. This message wasn't a hi or a welcoming or anything. It was an out-of-the-blue question. Lucy, are you religious? Me, hello, why are you asking? I need to know for the D&D campaign. I'm curious as to why my religious status would be relevant to D&D. Would you just answer the question? Okay, yes, I am religious. What?
I can't remember if I've heard this somewhere else or if we read it.
We did not read it. I thought this was the one we read, but it's not. It's the
Okay.
intro sounds a lot like the other one we read.
Okay.
Would you just answer the question? Okay, yes, I am religious. What religion? Christianity. What type? I don't have a denomination. Well, what's that mean? It means that I follow the New Testament and the teachings of Jesus. I believe in God, but I don't go to churches or follow a specific doctrine like the denominations have. Lamau, it's not just Protestant. No, I don't go to Protestant churches or follow their specific doctrines. Well, okay. And that was that. I was pretty suspicious of the old ordeal, but I eventually dropped it. I later learned that she asked everyone in the group the same question, and they all happened to answer as being non-religious. I don't want to call them atheists, as they didn't describe themselves that way. I ended up letting the DM know what happened. DM and Lucy have been friends for a long time, and she explains to me that Lucy has been harassed by religious people in the past because of her sexuality and political views. This genuinely upset me. I can't speak for other religious groups, but it's my personal belief that a true follower of Christianity would know not to treat others poorly and due to things like these. So I sent Lucy a message the next day. Hey Lucy, I'm sorry, hey Lucy, I'm reaching out because DM told me about your troubles with religious people in the past. I'm sorry that you were treated that way. We aren't all like that, I promise. I'm definitely not like that. I truly don't care about your race or religion or sexuality or political standing. And I hope to prove that in the upcoming time, we will be spending with the others. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. In the event that I do end up doing something that upsets you, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me about it. I didn't get a response, and I wasn't expecting to, so I let the matter rest. Apparently that was the wrong move, because a few hours later I get a message from DM. Hey, OP, did you send something hateful messages to Lucy? What? No. Well, she just texted me saying that you were saying that she wasn't emotionally stable enough to handle religious people. What? I was fairly confused and sent a screenshot of our Discord chat. The DM said, oh, the DM's a girl. Fuck it, I'm keeping that voice for the DM.
Good.
The DM said she was also confused and would look into it. I thank her for checking in with me rather than flat out bleeding her, and I go about my day. The next day, I get another message from DM explaining that Lucy was going through some tough times and took it out on me. Now, I get that life can be really shitty sometimes. It can be easy to let it get to you, but taking it out on others is not okay. If you do take it out on someone else, that person deserves an apology. They were treated unfairly over something that they had nothing to do with and no control over. Did I get an apology? No. DM said she was sorry that she acted that way, and I was thankful for that, but it wasn't the DM's fault. Lucy was in the wrong. Oh well, moving on. So, Session 0 rolls around and we meet up over Discord call. Now, I like to cater to the needs of the party when I make my characters. I like to fill in roles that we lacked. Our party so far consisted of a rogue, a wizard, a warlock, and I quickly hit up a friend of mine who has a lot of D&D experience and asked what I should go for. Sorry, I am yawning a lot because I am tired. It's been a long day.
Understandable.
Okay. Okay. He told me that the party was lacking a tank and a healer, so Paladin would be a solid choice. I'd never played a Paladin before, but I figured it was the best choice. The exact details of every character aren't really important, except for the fact that my character was a lawful good Paladin of Bahamut. We finished Session 0 and the DM makes a folder with all our character sheets that are accessible to everyone. I was interested in my fellow party members' characters and looked over them all. The wizard and sorcerer were fairly good characters and have nothing significant to the story. A rogue, which happened to be Lucy's character, had a very interesting backstory and personality traits. Let's just say to summarize her rogue as a woman who was abused and enslaved by religious cults and is now a very anti-religious person. Here's one of the quotes under her notable quotes for my character section. Not kidding, that was an actual section she made in her character notes. Religious people, especially religious warriors, are utter idiots. They'll never amount to anything, if I can help it, and deserve to be taken advantage of. Okay, I had a feeling this was all to spite me. I had no issue with anti-religious people or characters. I was even pretty hopeful that this would be potentially good and fun thing to RP and party relation developments. However, the fact that she specifically mentioned religious warriors, which is basically what a paladin is, didn't sit right with me. I expressed this to the DM, and she took note of it. The next day, we rolled into Session 1. Our characters were on a large commercial vessel, carrying large amounts of passengers to another continent. During one night of the voyage, we were ambushed and boarded by pirates. Each party member separately fights to defend themselves. During the chaos, the ship crashes along a rock and is torn apart. Our party ends up washed ashore on a body of dry land. This is how our characters meet and band together for survival purposes. We get around and I mention my character's deity, and Lucy interrupts us out of character. I thought you were Christian, OP. Yeah? Shouldn't your deity be God? Well, why would he be? Isn't it against your religion to believe in other gods? I don't believe in Bahamut. My fantasy character does. God's a fantasy, sweetie. You and I disagree on that. Even if he was, he isn't in any of the D&D books. You can homebrew him, couldn't you? If I wanted to, yes, but I don't want to. This is a fake character set in a fake universe. I don't need or want to homebrew the Christian god in D&D. What are you trying to get from all this? Oh, nothing. Sorry for interrupting. The DM tries to roll over the conversation that just occurred, but there was a certain awkwardness to the rest of the session. I was fairly annoyed with Lucy for challenging my character's compatibility with my religious values, but I was more annoyed with the fact that she disrupted the session to do so. Why? What was there to gain from that? I sent a message to the DM stating that what she did wasn't okay. The DM said she would talk to her about it. The next session rolls around and we continue on our journey. Throughout our adventure, we find that we are on an inhabited island, and there was a city that was divided into 6 districts. Each district leader made up a circle of counselors that governed the city. When we arrived to the city, we were greeted by the religious counselor, who happened to also be a follower of Bahamut. The counselor announced that she heard about a recent nearby shipwreck and was organizing a rescue party until she heard of our party's arrival. The DM explained that our characters' ragtag and beat-up looks after surviving the crash was a dead giveaway that there were some survivors. She further explained that she was relieved we were alright and offered us shelter at the Temple of Bahamut. She also ensured that I'm really sorry for yawning. I actually think it's because of my cringe lungs, since yawns are an automatic response from, not breathing good,
Yeah, I thought it was to cool the brain slightly.
Ow. Yeah. Shelter at the Temple of Bahamut, and also ensured that we would be taken care of. My character has a backstory revolving around being fairly untrustworthy others. And outside, don't trust this person and wish to check for signs of deceit. Alright, roll insight. And DM roll. Alright, 17. Okay. She sends me this message. Yeah, you notice that her eyes have trouble meeting yours, and her feet shuffle with her speech. Lucy, out loud and out of character again. He didn't succeed, did he? I can't say. That's up to him to reveal if he did later when the party has more privacy. Well, if he did, he shouldn't. Religious people aren't mentally developed enough to question their superiors. There's no realistic way he would have been untrustworthy to the religious leader of Bahamut's teachings. Look, do you have an issue with playing with me? This is the second time in a row that you've spoken up about inconsistency with my character and my religion. Hey, calm down. How old are we? Don't attack me like that. What are you talking about? I just asked you a question. Yeah, can we end the session right here? I don't feel safe. Okay. We end the session right there, and I feel completely lost. I end up chatting with the DM and other players over Discord. They seem fairly confused about the ordeal. We come to the conclusion that Lucy needs to be confronted about this, either by the DM privately or with everyone before the start of the next session. During the next break, the DM tells us that she will talk to Lucy about her behavior. Okay, cool. Hopefully that'll sort itself out. It didn't sort itself out.
Oh boy!
In the next session, we get our chance for our characters to converse with each other. My character tells the others that he has reason to doubt the integrity of the religious counselor. Lucy, in character. There's no way you'd know something like that. Her gaze seemed to trail away from ours, and her feet shuffled with her words. You're a brainwashed pawn, a paladin of all things. You don't question, you just use your brawn to keep your owner in charge. Well, you may choose not to heed my warning, but don't cry to me when someone faces the consequences. When facing the consequences. Lucy just laughs, and the DM ushers us to move on. When we approached the temple, we were offered shelter. I repeated my warning, and the party agreed that we shouldn't trust these people and should find some other way to get shelter. Lucy, however, tries to convince the party to have me stay in the temple by myself without any justification. We overrule her. and she goes quiet. We get about another 10 minutes in when suddenly a group of religious men and women approach our party. They try and tell us that we would be safe in the temple and plead for us to come back and stay. Lucy once again announces that my character should believe them, and I was very close to speaking out again, but the DM spoke up first. We've already been over this, Lucy. Stop bringing it up. I don't think you have a strong enough understanding of how religious people work or think. I don't think you have a strong enough understanding of that this is my campaign and I make the rules. I don't care how you think all religious people act, but I can tell you it isn't accurate. Now, stop trying to tell me who should and shouldn't pass checks. Oh, so you're taking his side now? This isn't a side, you're being disruptive and rude. I think OP can agree that you have been doing this what you have been doing has been incredibly disrespectful too. Yeah, I do. I don't care what your personal views on religion are, but that doesn't give you the right to disrespect the views of others. Oh, now he's pushing religious views on me. How are you gonna just let him do that? How am I pushing...
Not religious views!
How am I pushing any of my religious views on you? I think the rule on disrespect applies in most situations. If anything, you've been pushing your views of religious people on me and the rest of the group. You keep wasting our time, and no one here appreciates it. Lucy leaves the Discord voice channel, and then leaves the server. I thank the DM for having my back, and continue the session. Next day, the DM brings to my attention that Lucy has been ranting a downright untrue version of the story to people on another server that they're both a part of. According to her, I forced the D&D game to be a very Christian game. And furthermore, I tried to attack and kill the other characters due to their sexuality. As a cherry on top, I also labeled her character as a witch and tried to kill her because I was jealous of her character's obvious higher intelligence. I don't care so much about a bunch of people I don't know believing I was some religious fanatic, but she tried to pressure DM for my name and apartment location. I don't know for sure why, but I doubt it was for anything benevolent. The DM and I blocked her, and the DM also left that server. We continue to play D&D.
Hey, I don't like this person. Dox them for me, please? Yeah. I only want to talk.
I only want to talk. I've been harassing them since day one. Please dox them for me. We continue to play D&D with the remainder of the group, and eventually finish the campaign around August. And that's all. Thanks for reading. TLDR. Incredibly anti-religious woman rage quits after I don't play the way she thinks religious people are. Oh boy! This is a story.
It sure is.
So, don't be an asshole. Like, don't tell someone what their character should and shouldn't do.
Don't take away another player's agency, and also don't disrespect the other players.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you can have some in-character disrespect, but make sure it's pretty obvious that it's between the characters and not, you disrespecting the player because you think he's a dummy for thinking that there's a guy in the sky.
Also, don't lie about why you were kicked out. She wasn't even kicked out. She rage quit.
Yeah, no, she left on her own.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably what happened in her previous group. That's why I said that she's a lot like the person from your story.
Oh well.
Yeah, I could imagine them being the same person.
All right. We've got one more story to wrap up this whole deal.
Yeah.
This recording session.
Yep.
Of RPG horror stories taken from Reddit.
Yeah.
And told to you.
Live in front of a studio ostrich.
Hello. Here we have, posted 7 days ago by user Chic Freak, 44 upvotes. The D&D podcast that never was.
Oh boy.
I was invited to join a D&D podcast. I'd never played D&D before and thought it would be an exciting way to get into the game while learning to roleplay. The group consists of Bard, DM's best friend, Artificer, Sorcerer, and myself, Druid. I missed the first session as they had already started, but was added by the time the second session came around. Initially, things with the group seemed to go well. We got along and had fun. I loved the group and was stoked to play in a long-term campaign. As a new player, I thought I'd hit the jackpot with this group because it's hard to find groups in my area. One evening, my second or third session, the DM decided to add his son to the game, Barbarian. The DM didn't ask the group if we wanted another player. His son just showed up and was added to the story.
How old is the son?
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess he's like 12.
I'm going to guess probably 8, either 14 or 18.
14 was my second guess.
14, 15, 16, the middle ranges.
Yeah. I'm gonna assume 14, since that's the most petulant age.
Perhaps. I didn't really have an issue with it, as it was the DM's game, and he was in charge of who played at his table. I was just happy to be there and spend an evening adventuring and doing lots of RP. I wasn't great at RP at first, but I tried my best to learn to share the spotlight with other players and to improve my skills. I was still learning how to interact in-game, and RPing was somewhat prickly, and was RPing a somewhat prickly druid. My druid bantered with the bard, and there were lots of laughs. The group, players, got our DM a Christmas present, and he got each of us one. And we seemed to be developing great friendships. I bought fun dice sets as little gifts for everyone, with designs based on their in-game characters, brought pizza, and was always ready to participate. I even helped the DM fund an additional mic purchase for the podcast. Somewhere, somehow, things changed. Our group only lasted 2 months before the DM dissolved it. Barbarian, DM's kid, showed up late to several games. Not 15 minutes late, more like 30 to 45 minutes late. We never knew if he was going to be on time or late for it. He didn't participate in the group Discord chat, or attend the only out of group meeting we had. DM let Barbarian's lack of participation slide. Artificer didn't like it at all, and wasn't happy DM's kid had been added to the group without prior discussion. I think this bothered Artificer more as time went on. He didn't care for Barbarian's lackluster RP abilities and lack of participation. I didn't like it either, but he was the DM's kid, so I didn't think there was much we could do. He wasn't a toxic player, just very absent, if that makes sense. Q. Artificer seemed to have different expectations regarding the podcast than the rest of the group. He and I chatted on Discord a lot about the podcast and the game in general. Artificer seemed to take the podcast aspect more seriously than everyone else. He grew frustrated when everyone didn't agree on a group name or podcast direction. I encouraged everyone to figure it out, and we finally settled on a name. After Christmas, when Artificer's frustration with lack of direction for the podcast seemed to escalate, I said the group should meet in person to discuss the podcast. I'd made a concerted effort to get everyone together in person. We met, and I thought that resolved Artificer's frustrations. It didn't. 3. Artificer was mad the DM was not communicating with him / responding to his messages on Discord. I advised him to bring up his concerns with the DM, as I didn't think DM was intentionally ignoring him. Artificer was frustrated Barbarian and Bard were not as active in the group chat and podcast. He felt he was doing all the work while they, and DM, would benefit if the podcast did well. Over time, Artificer's attitude seemed to become more and more negative. He threatened, privately to me in chat, to quit, and kept wondering what he was getting out of it. I empathized and advised him to talk to the DM. Bard changed his mind about an important subplot that affected my character. I had asked Bard up front if we could do it, and was told that they were open to anything and to RP the way I wanted. Almost 2 months later, he changed his mind. I wasn't happy about his decision, and my feelings were hurt, as I spent a lot of time developing my character. Since it was a podcast, I couldn't retcon anything, and there were certain things my character would not have done had Bard been clear and upfront when I explicitly asked if subplot was okay before pursuing it. I did talk to DM and shared my feelings in the group chat to try working it out. Artificer encouraged me to talk with the group so we could work out any issues. Eventually, I figured out a path forward and was ready to move on. Our last ever session, Bard and I seemed to have a good time, and I was looking forward to where the game could go in the future. 5. Artificer grew frustrated with Bard and didn't seem to like him much as a person as time went on, describing him as a mess outside of the game. He wasn't toxic to Bard during the game, though in our private Discord chat he expressed his opinions. To be honest, Bard could be a bit full of himself sometimes. I vented to Artificer about Bard when he messed up the subplot I had built. Artificer seemed to get more and more fed up with the group and podcast as his messages became increasingly negative. In turn, I felt more stressed and uncertain how things could be resolved. 6. Our last ever game as a group, Bard told me about his real-life personal problems. In person, right before we played. I suspect Artificer was not in the mood to listen to that, as he had come to play, and didn't know Bard very well outside the game. I believe Artificer's negativity stacked with his growing frustration with the podcast, perceived DM communication issues, and Barbarian's lack of participation. His negative feelings with the group outside the game bled into the game. Finally, things came crashing down. On our last game, Artificer seemed like he'd already checked out. He seemed unhappy and left without saying much to anyone. The next day on Discord, Artificer announced he was quitting the game because he wasn't having fun. He didn't specify anything before he left, he just quit and that was that. DM was understandably deflated and upset, as Artificer had not told him about his issues with him, Bard, and Barbarian. Even though OP kept telling him to fucking talk to the DM, he didn't.
Oh, Jesus. So, that sounds like a huge mess for multiple reasons.
Oh, yeah.
How did
There's
he
more,
even
though.
Oh, there's more.
There's more.
Oh, no.
I was not happy with how Artificer chose to leave, as I really liked our DM, and felt DM deserved more respect than that. The worst part is the DM killed the game as soon as Artificer left, even though we still had 4 players. He cut me from the group, saying it wasn't anything against me as a person or player, just that it wasn't the right time to add a new player, and not the right group to add a player to either. He told me the group was tainted afterwards, the friendships tainted as well, and that he needed to get his main group back to what it was before. I'm feeling pretty disheartened about how things ended. Barbarian was the newest/last player added, not me. Yes, Barbarian was the DM's kid, and presumably automatically in the core group, but his unexpected addition was a sore spot for Artificer. DM, Barbarian, Bard, and Sorcerer had played together before. Artificer had played a bit with them, but not nearly as long, and wasn't part of the core group. I didn't even know there was a core group of select people the DM would keep, and that I was expendable as soon as one person, Artificer, left. I'd wanted things to work and communicated with the DM and group. I felt like I was lumped into the Artificer's issues with the group and left behind. I feel like, by cutting me from the core group, I was being punished. Maybe that wasn't the DM's intent, but that's how it came across to me in the end. If anyone's considering a D&D podcast, I advise only doing it if everyone is ready and willing to participate, communicate, and fully understands what's involved.
Yeah, I feel that on a deep level. I don't know if you know this, but I have a D&D podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called World Disappear. Hey, you should be in it. Oh,
shit.
You want to be in it?
I should. Yeah, can I be a small little kobold pirate boy named Levere?
Only if you be a swashbuckler.
Ah,
and you have to have hips.
I wanted to be a poisoner.
You have to have hips thick enough to bend metal bars.
I mean, that was gonna be it regardless. It's a kobold made by me.
Yeah, that's fair. So the things to learn here: communication. God damn, so much of this could have been fixed if there was proper communication. And communication goes both ways. Like,
there was a lack of communication from literally everyone except OP.
Honestly, I think that OP probably also lacked communication, but embellished slightly to make it seem like...
Could. The way the story came out seems he's doing his best.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, communication is key. You need everyone on the same page. If you don't, then things are going to happen. Have you ever seen a party try to execute a plan without everyone being on the same page?
Exactly.
Yeah, and whenever that happens, whenever there's miscommunication, people get, frustrated and things happen. If you want to look at a really good example of what miscommunication can lead to, look up the video The Trouble with Tiberius by Super Geek Mike. Anywho, I mean, there's a lot more problems there, but failure to communicate is definitely one of the major problems that
Absolutely.
contributed. Anywho, yeah. Also, well, I mean, this is also on the topic of communication. Don't invite people to your campaign unless the players know. Like run it over with them beforehand. Like whenever I asked like Rose to be a guest player, I consulted y'all first. I was like, hey, I got this friend who I want to invite as a guest player. And y'all like, okay, cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God, everything does boil down to communication. Like, it's not even, I mean, it's a little bit of don't be an asshole, but, most of it is just communication. I don't have anything else to say about that. What about you?
Well.
You got anything else to say before we sign off?
I'm warm.
That's fair. Anywho, thank you everybody for watching. This has been the Posscast.
It has.
If you enjoyed this, definitely check out some of the other stuff on the channel. I'm playing Hollow Knight. Biddy is playing...
I'm playing Minish Cap.
Yes, you can check that out. A new video was posted just yesterday. We also have Tabletop Thursdays, where Biddy and I, as well as our friend Chalky, play Tabletop Simulator.
Indeed.
My boyfriend is playing Bug Fables, and we got 2 Dungeons and Dragons podcasts going on.
One of which we talk about often. Tapir. One silver runs.
Yes, we do talk about Curse of Strahd often as well, being run by our friend Chalky.
Yeah. We talk about Tapir a lot more, though.
Oh, that's fair. That's because Tapir has... Like, Curse of Strahd, it's a module. The things are already set. Like, but Tapir's a homebrew. So there's a much higher chance of wild stories. Like being chased by 4 purple worms. Anywho, comment challenge of the day. If you're new here, first of all, thank you for listening all the way to the end. But also, at the end of each video, we have a comment challenge, and today's it is what is the dumbest decision that you have ever made in a tabletop RPG that actually worked?
That actually worked
to some capacity. Like the outcome is what your goal was. Maybe it didn't work out exactly the way you planned, but as long as the outcome is still the same.
Ah.
What?
Probably forcing my way through those bars.
That's fair. For me, it was when we fought the Onkeg Queen. Our plan was to dig into the chamber above and then drop down below. The Queen's chamber was really fucking high. And also after we killed the Queen, because, you know, we dropped down and then, she shook us off after we dealt the damage. She flew up. And after we killed her, she was falling down on us with the force that could kill us if we failed our saves. It's definitely a risky plan, but goddamn. Actually, no, scratch that. I'm gonna say the most recent episode of Curse of Strahd. Yeah. So, my character Margaret and our friend Ruby's character Golsheen snuck away from the other party members while they were sleeping for the night and went into Kretsk in order to find the amulet of Ravenkind, which we did, and then we spawned, and in doing so spawned a bunch of whites. And the previous session, the most recent session, is us having to deal with that. Alright.
Yep.
So, with that out of the way, this is all I have to say, but good night, everybody!
Goodbye!